They handed me a takeout menu while everyone else was clinking champagne glasses over foie gras and prime rib. I looked down at the wrinkled paper in my hand, and then up at the long, candlelit table where my siblings laughed like they were royalty. My name is Vanessa, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever felt like your own family wanted to shrink you down so small you'd vanish without protest? The waiter stood by awkwardly, waiting for my order. Mom didn't even look up. She was too busy talking to my sister about her new law internship. My brother grinned and whispered, "They didn't think you'd want to sit with everyone, since you know you're always so sensitive." Sensitive. That word again. Their weapon of choice whenever they needed to silence me. I glanced at the empty chair at the far end of the table, the one they never intended me to fill. I'd paid the deposit for this reservation. I'd spent 3 hours securing the private room at Delacroix's. I'd even requested the wine pairing that my dad loved. And yet here I was, given a takeout menu like I was a delivery driver who wandered in. I smiled. Then, quietly, I walked to the end of the table and picked up the reservation confirmation folder I had left with the maitre d'. The one with my name, my card, my contact info. Their laughter paused for the first time. I turned to the waiter and said in a calm, clear voice, "Put the whole table's order on my father's tab. The one ending in 4398. It's all in the system. Just transfer the charges." The waiter hesitated, then nodded. I folded the takeout menu and placed it right in front of my mom's untouched appetizer plate. No one said a word. I walked out before dessert. But I stayed just close enough to hear what happened 20 minutes later, when the bill came and my father shouted across the room, "$1,900? What did you order?" That's when the table turned quiet, because they finally realized I hadn't left empty-handed. I had left them holding the mask they'd always worn and the bill they thought I'd keep paying. When I got home that night, I didn't cry. I sat on my porch, poured myself a glass of ginger ale, and stared at the stars like they owed me an explanation. The kind of silence that settles after betrayal isn't peaceful. It scratches at your ribs from the inside out. Because this wasn't about dinner. It never was. It was about every moment leading up to that night. 1,000 paper cuts dressed as jokes, as we didn't mean it like that, as you know how you are. They erased me long before that menu was handed to me. When my sister got into Yale, they threw a garden party with a violinist and a customized cake that said, "Our future senator." When I got promoted to manager after working 60-hour weeks, my mom texted, "That's nice. Just don't overdo it. You're not really leadership material, remember?" I remembered. I remembered how they'd always seat me closest to the kitchen during holidays, said it was so I could help serve faster. I remembered being 13 and overhearing my aunt say, "Vanessa's sweet, but she's not exceptional like the others." And no one corrected her. And yet, I kept showing up, kept contributing, paid for Dad's dental surgery, loaned my brother $5,000 when his crypto tanked, covered the hotel bill for Mom's birthday in Charleston. Never once asked for repayment. I thought maybe love would be enough to make them see me. But love without respect? That's just self-erasure. A slow vanishing act. And I was done performing. The next morning, my mom called. Not to apologize. Of course not. She said, "We noticed you left early. You know, it really upset your father when you made a scene." I laughed, just once. Then I asked, "What part upset him, Mom?" That I didn't want a takeout seat at a dinner I booked, or that the waiter brought him the truth with a side of tax and tip? She hung up. It was the cleanest goodbye I'd ever received. And somewhere deep inside, I knew this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the end of the version where I begged for a seat at their table. Because now, I was building a new one. 3 days passed. Silence. No calls. No texts. Just a photo my sister posted, her and my mom at a brunch spot, captioned, "Nothing like family who lifts you up." I stared at it longer than I should have. Not because it hurt, but because it confirmed something I'd refused to admit. They didn't just forget me. They enjoyed forgetting me. But the final straw wasn't that dinner. It wasn't the takeout menu or the fake concern afterward. It was what came next. That Friday, I got an email from my bank. Subject, Joint credit card purchase flagged for review. I hadn't used that card in months. It was the one I opened during Dad's recovery when he needed help covering prescriptions. I'd forgotten it even existed. Inside the email, a $2,400 charge to a boutique furniture store. Billing address, my parents' home. I called the bank immediately. Sorry, the agent said. Only the primary holder can dispute this. I paused. You're telling me I'm the secondary holder? Yes, ma'am. The card's primary name is Mr. Daniel Green. My own father had flipped the account details. He'd made himself the owner, using my credit, and I hadn't even noticed. I hung up, shaking. This wasn't forgetfulness. This was theft dressed in fatherly entitlement. I texted him one sentence. You have 24 hours to remove your name and clear the balance. No reply. By noon the next day, the balance remained. But there was something else now, a $300 charge at a high-end golf club. I didn't get angry. I got calculating. I opened my drawer, pulled out the receipts, literal and emotional, and started reviewing the damage. How many holidays had I paid for? How many emergencies had I covered? How many times had I been the family's invisible backbone while they posted gratitude to each other? I wasn't just ignored. I was exploited. And the worst part? They expected me to keep smiling while they danced on my generosity like it was a rug to wipe their shoes on. So I made a quiet decision. The days of free rides were over. They'd handed me a takeout menu. Now I was about to hand them the bill for everything. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with a yellow notepad and a black pen, the same kind my dad used to sign every birthday check he never sent me. And I wrote, not feelings, figures. Every loan, every dinner, every medical copay, every flight booked on my dime when they said, we'll pay you back next week. $312 for Dad's prescriptions. $480 hotel suite for Mom's Charleston birthday. $5,000 loan to Tyler. $1,800 for Christmas gifts when they forgot to shop. And so on. Line after line until the number at the bottom stared back at me like a final verdict. $16,940.23. And that didn't even include emotional damages, the kind that don't fit on paper. So, I did something I'd never done before. I sent a group email. Subject: Reimbursement Ledger plus Final Boundaries. Inside, I attached a PDF labeled Services Rendered. Vanessa Green. No greetings. No guilt. Just a letter. Dear family, this is a record of all financial contributions I've made over the past 5 years. Since it appears we are operating as separate parties, not family, I'm formally requesting repayment for these debts. I will no longer be contributing to family expenses, events, or emergencies. The card Dad used without permission has been closed. Legal notice pending if repayment isn't received within 30 days. Also, please do not contact me unless it is in regard to settling the balance. Best, Vanessa. I hit send. And just like that, I stopped asking to be loved. I started demanding to be respected. The phone calls came an hour later. Mom first. 5 missed calls. Then Tyler. A single text. Are you serious? Dead serious. Because what they didn't understand was this. When you treat someone like a utility, don't be shocked when they cut the power. I didn't send the invoice to be paid. I sent it so they could see, line by line, what it cost me to keep pretending I belonged. It was never about the money. It was about making them face the truth. That the daughter they once mocked for being too sensitive had finally run out of grace and inked the last page of the story they kept rewriting without her. By Monday morning, the silence had shifted. It wasn't just absence, it was pressure. A passive-aggressive storm cloud. Mom posted an Instagram story with the quote, "Real family forgives. Broken people keep score." And then she tagged my sister. Not me. Tyler finally called. His voice sounded half smug, half worried. "Vanessa, you're blowing this way out of proportion. You know we love you. Why turn this into a math problem?" I didn't flinch. "You're right," I said. "Let's keep it emotional then. And I'll send the lawyer my trauma diary instead of a ledger. Is that what you want?" Click. That was the last I heard from him. But the truth? It was already unraveling. Because my email hadn't just shocked them. It exposed them. My cousin Rachel, the only one who ever treated me like I mattered, texted me that night. They're freaking out. Your mom said you're trying to destroy the family's reputation. Funny how they're more upset about appearances than what they actually did.
Exactly.
Because when your entire image is curated, the perfect family, the smart kids, the successful dinners, someone like me is a liability. I'd never fit their mold. Too outspoken. Too honest. Too unwilling to play the quiet background role.
But now?
Now they were scrambling to rewrite the story again. Only this time, I wasn't in it to play the fool. Later that week, I found out something that made my jaw clench. The family cruise I'd originally planned, the one I'd booked months in advance and paid deposits for, they were still going. They'd just removed me from the guest list and transferred the reservation to my sister's name. Same date, same ship, same itinerary. Like I never existed. And the kicker? They used my old travel agent and forgot to change the emergency contact info. So I got the updated itinerary email. And in that moment, I didn't get sad. I didn't get even. I got ready. Because if they wanted to erase me from their fairy tale, I'd gladly become the storm that washed the pages blank. The next chapter wouldn't be a revenge fantasy. It would be a reckoning. I didn't cancel the cruise. I could've. The entire reservation, from the stateroom upgrades to the private dining packages, was still under my travel agent's portal. But I didn't. Instead, I called Amanda, the agent I'd worked with for 5 years. I said, I need you to update the account notes, but don't cancel a thing. Just tag it as paid in full by Vanessa Green. Also, flag the room under Tyler Green for review. She paused. Is everything all right? It will be, I said. They're taking a cruise. I'm taking control. 2 days before departure, I booked a one-night suite at the port's luxury hotel. Floor-to-ceiling windows, spa access, the whole thing. I wanted peace, but I also wanted presence. The morning of the cruise, I sat in the hotel cafe sipping black coffee and watching passengers line up at the terminal. Then I saw them. Mom in a wide-brim hat. Dad with his golf duffel. Tyler in sunglasses like a discount celebrity. And my sister, strutting ahead like the ship owed her first-class entry. I waited until they reached the check-in counter. Waited until the staff asked for ID. Then it happened. The woman at the counter frowned, typed something, then called over her manager. She pointed to the screen. Sir, there seems to be a hold on your room. It says the cardholder requested review due to unauthorized reassignment. My father blinked.
What?
I don't even know what that means. The manager pulled up the file. This reservation was booked and fully paid for by Vanessa Green. It was recently modified without her authorization. Due to this, we'll need written confirmation from her to proceed. Mom's smile cracked. That's when I stood up from my cafe seat and walked slowly toward the check-in desk. Amanda had given me clearance to step in if needed. I stopped a few feet from them, calm, unbothered, glowing in sunlight. Mom's face went pale. Vanessa. Hi, I said. Just came to make sure everything goes smoothly. After all, it's a beautiful cruise I planned for a family that never planned to include me. Dad looked around, furious and embarrassed. Is this about money again? No, I said. It's about boundaries. I turned to the manager. They're no longer authorized to sail under my payment. Feel free to open the rooms to standby guests. The boarding passes were pulled. And just like that, the cruise left without them. But I went home floating because for the first time in years, I wasn't weighed down by the need to be wanted. 3 hours after the ship sailed without them, I turned off my phone. Not in anger.
In peace.
I lit a candle, made myself dinner. Real dinner, not takeout handed with insult, and played music I loved. For once, the silence wasn't heavy. It was clean. But when I turned my phone back on the next morning, it was like stepping into a storm. 19 missed calls, 5 voicemails, 3 messages from unknown numbers, and 1 voicemail I replayed 3 times. It was Dad, the same man who once told me, "Don't get emotional, Vanessa." It makes you look weak. Now his voice cracked like dry wood. I don't know what's happening with you lately, but your mother's in tears. We just wanted a nice vacation. What you did was cruel. I hope you're happy. Happy?
No.
But I was clear. That was the difference. I forwarded the voicemail to my lawyer and began the process of formally separating every last financial tie, accounts, cosigns, the family trust one was supposed to manage one day. I wanted none of it, because they didn't want me. They wanted my silence, my wallet, my loyalty, without giving respect in return. 2 days later, I got a knock at the door. It was Rachel. She looked nervous, clutching a gift bag like it was a shield. I had no idea, Ness, she said. They told everyone you bailed on the family dinner, that you made a scene and stormed out. I laughed bitterly. Of course they did. She handed me the bag. Inside was a small box, a necklace, a tiny gold tag that read, "Seen." I know it doesn't fix anything, she said, but I see you. I always did. My throat tightened, because that was the thing, wasn't it? Being unseen hurts more than being hated. I hugged her, the kind of hug that said thank you in 100 ways I couldn't speak out loud. Later that week, I saw a Facebook post from my mom, a photo of the empty cruise ship deck. Caption: "Sometimes life teaches you who your children really are." I didn't reply, because she was right. Life had taught me who I was and who they were, too. And when someone finally sees you, you no longer crave attention from those who look through you. That was the real freedom. A month passed. No calls. No emails. Just digital silence and the occasional third-party guilt trip. My aunt tried reaching out, said mom was still heartbroken, that family always comes back around. But I didn't. Not this time. Because I wasn't circling back to a dinner table where I was always served scraps of dignity and asked to smile through it. Instead, I set my own table. On my birthday, I reserved a rooftop dinner, the same place I'd once begged them to celebrate with me years ago. They declined back then, said it was too much. So this time, I invited exactly 4 people. Rachel, my best friend from college, my former coworker who once let me cab fare when my car declined.
And me.
That night, I wore the red silk dress they'd once mocked, said it made me look too loud. The waiter greeted me with a warm smile. "Happy birthday, Miss Green. Your table's ready, best view of the city." We laughed, toasted, shared stories. And I felt something I'd never felt sitting at their table.
Full.
Not just in belly, but in spirit. As the sun dipped behind the skyline, Rachel leaned over and asked, "Do you ever think they'll come around? Apologize, I mean." I looked out across the city and thought for a moment. "No," I said, "because apologies require awareness. And they've spent their whole lives blinding themselves to who I am." She nodded. "Then what would you say if they did?" I sipped my wine, let the breeze kiss my skin, and smiled. "I'd say thank you. Because when you handed me that takeout menu, you gave me my freedom disguised as rejection." She laughed gently. "You always were the poetic one. But it wasn't poetry. It was fact. When you stop begging for crumbs, you learn how to bake your own feast. And when you walk away from a table that starved you, you create space for a life that feeds you." I no longer needed them to see me. I saw myself. And in that reflection, strong, steady, and finally at peace, I found everything they tried to deny me. Respect, clarity, power,
Love.
all mine now.